In today's episode, our spotlight is family studies.
Where you believe the changes should be implemented in Ontario.
Through SHSM, students can concentrate their studies in various economic sectors.
Family studies. Is it not that just old school home economics, baking cookies and sewing buttons?
Salam and welcome to Risk and Resilience. I'm the Practical Miss, and joining me is Naddy the Nerd. We've created this series from classroom to career to explore how shifting our education system from a managed system to a living one can open new doors for students. Because I believe education is more than just teaching subjects. It's also about building skills with purpose and treating the curriculum as a living system that grows and adapts with students and their families' needs, including having teachers trained to adapt to the changes required for building those skills. In today's episode, our spotlight is family studies, a subject too often overlooked, but with enormous potential. We'll examine its impact on students' social emotional well-being, showing how subjects like fashion can build confidence, creativity, and empower risk and resilience.
Hello and salam. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to appreciate the Practical Miss for her passionate contribution to this episode. The way she connects practical skills with students' real-life needs is inspiring. Through today's discussion, I've personally learned a lot, and I'm excited that our audience will also see how skill-based learning can be incredibly helpful. Now, let's start the first question. Can you give us background on where you believe the changes should be implemented in Ontario?
Here in Ontario, we've embraced play-based learning in the early years. We've also recognized the value of connecting students with learning through Specialist High Skills Major, SHSM, and the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, OYAP. These Ministry of Education pathways provide students with sector-specific programming, combining academic coursework with experiential learning opportunities like co-op, certifications, and training. Through SHSM, students can concentrate their studies in various economic sectors such as health and wellness or hospitality and tourism, and much more, while earning their Ontario Secondary Diploma. OYAP, on the other hand, gives students a chance to begin apprenticeship training in skilled trades while completing high school. But when it comes to family studies and social sciences, recognized as an economic sectors, we're still falling behind, and that concerns me.
The Practical Miss, family studies. Is it not that just old school home economics, baking cookies and sewing buttons? And now you're talking about emotional well-being and even building the economy.
That's really a myth. First off, around the world, family studies goes by many names: home economics, family and consumer science, but today the title doesn't fully capture its potential. At its heart, this field builds critical thinking and holistic life skills that prepare students for modern life. Here in Ontario, family studies sits within the social science curriculum and covers everything from nutrition and child development to design and fashion. Each strand offers opportunity for purposeful, practical learning. Over the past decades, it has evolved into a dynamic curriculum that goes far beyond baking cookies and sewing buttons, so which, by the way, are powerful skills when done right. Family studies has the potential to equip students with the skills they need most: confidence, practical skills, emotional growth, and even pathways to careers.
So if family studies has a wow factor, then what's the problem?
Naddy, the challenge goes beyond a single course or program. It reflects an education system that is slow to adapt. Updates are often made only in isolated courses. While research is important, it sometimes feels as though the voices of those in the classroom, teachers, students, and families who experience the day-to-day realities are not fully heard. The system doesn't always function as a living, dynamic structure that responds to students' needs. Instead, it can feel more like a top-down model, where decisions are centralized and meaningful change moves slowly, if it happens at all. I've seen this firsthand since 2012 through my work in a public school system, as well as through personal experiences across much of my life. To explore this more deeply, today I'll focus on the world of fashion, one area of family studies whose potential is still largely untapped. While I draw on my experience and qualifications in Ontario, the insights I share are relevant to other provinces in Canada and even beyond.
I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective. So, what are your suggestions for improving family studies? And how can courses like fashion be made more relevant and accessible to students?
Well, in short, I can't speak for the entire system, but here's what I know. The last formal update to hospitality in Ontario was in 2009. And even today, many public high schools are still figuring out how to fully implement it. In the past, it wasn't recognized or implemented the way it is today. Thanks to SHSM programs and the Ministry of Education mandates, including funding allocations, hospitality is now actively bridging important gaps, giving students pathways, skills, and opportunities that align with real world needs. I'm confident we can see the same progress for family studies programs, such as the world of fashion, come to life.
How can a system come to life?
Naddy, if the Ministry of Education, schools, and teachers hear this podcast and act on these ideas, family studies could evolve in real time to meet students' social emotional needs, build essential skills, and reflect economic realities. In other words, it would become a living system, adapting to current issues and students' needs and teachers' guidance for the needs they have and know are the needs of their students, rather than remaining static or waiting for some big research to happen and begin changes that at the time might become outdated again. That's more reflective of the managed systems. To me, this is not a practical approach.
That makes sense. What further suggestions do you see taking place to help this come to life?
While SHSM programs can provide co-op experiences, mentorship, and industry-aligned projects, there is currently no standalone SHSM or OYAP pathway that fully honors fashion as an industry and career field. Updating family studies and fashion in this way would equip students with practical life skills, foster creativity, and open pathways to meaningful careers, while also offering a model that could inspire other provinces across Canada, even internationally. In Ontario, I suggest recognizing fashion with the curriculum as part of technological education while keeping it linked to family studies. Integrating fashion into pathways like skilled trades and STEM careers and connecting it to project and program-based approaches allows students to combine practical skills with aligned academics. For example, they could design a collection, calculate cost, explore sustainable materials, and research marketing strategies. That's so much more interesting, all within hands-on projects that reinforce core skills like math and financial literacy and create amazing projects ready for the global market.
This sounds so practical. I'm so excited. You are connecting fashion to the underlying real world business fundamentals. I wonder, what do you think the response from teachers would be if curriculum changes were made to give students more opportunities like this?
From teachers I've shared these ideas with, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. They see the value and the need, especially those who recognize the ongoing struggles in family studies and the lack of support for this subject area. I know organizations like OFSHIA have long been advocating for stronger recognition and resources in family studies. And while their vision may not match mine exactly, it reinforces the same truth. Teachers need support and recognition. Although I cannot speak for every teacher, I can say from my experience that teachers would feel more confident, valued, and supported if changes to the curriculum were matched with proper training opportunities. Updated programming is important, and so is ensuring teachers have the professional development they need to deliver it well, with time for training that is meaningful, so we can teach with excellence. In subjects like food and nutrition, health, or sociology and psychology, I really feel confident as a teacher because of my education, training, and experience, especially in early childhood education. But in fashion, resources are scarce, training is so hard to access, And teachers like myself are often left scrambling, especially if we're teaching it for the first time.
Tell me more about your experience with teaching a new subject.
This year, I had the opportunity to teach fashion for the first time, and it brought back so many memories. I still remember my first experience with a sewing machine. Back in their intermediate years, grades 7 and 8 family studies. Those classes, along with industrial arts, were some of the most fascinating times in school for me. The teachers were engaging, the work was hands on, and I always came home excited to show off what I had learned in the projects I made. My mom never let me near her sewing machine, though, because it was so expensive. So I couldn't continue building the skills for something that interested me at home. Fast forward to today. Although I couldn't use a sewing machine at home, my mom did teach me valuable sewing tips, and combined with the basics I learned in grade 7 and 8 family studies, I feel confident in my own sewing. However, when it comes to teaching, this brings new challenges, especially guiding students who are new and are using the sewing machine for the first time. So I quickly realized I needed a stronger foundation. Just as I had limited opportunities to practice and grow as a student, in my early years, there were also very few professional opportunities for teachers to develop in this area. From my experience and from conversations with other family studies teachers, I know AQs and other professional trainings rarely focus on sewing or on how to teach it effectively, leaving us to build much of this knowledge on our own.
I always thought first world countries were resourceful and well planned and knew how to deliver. This is a surprise for me.
Yes, even first world countries, we're not perfect, and change is definitely needed. I believe that if curriculum updates and teacher training focuses on building skills and classroom management were treated as a living system, responsive to teacher insights, students' needs, and societal shifts, they could re-energize classrooms, build practical skills, and strengthen emotional well-being.
This is interesting. How does teacher training in the world of fashion look to you?
First, I suggest implementing a practical plan. After all, I am the practical miss. We can start with pilot project programs that incorporate project-based learning in fashion, which could demonstrate its value while making learning engaging and relevant. Some gaps could be filled with proper funding for training, whether through official PD or courses offered by local businesses specializing in sewing and design, or even through joint ventures.
So, you think that just changing the curriculum is not sufficient and teachers' training goes hand in hand with this change? I see your practical mindset.
Yes, exactly. I strongly believe that if curriculum updates were paired with teacher training and support, teachers would embrace them, especially when responding to students' interest and helping them reach their potential. If we don't have the skills or resources for a practical course like the world of fashion, how can students learn how to sew? Students miss valuable time while teachers are learning themselves. Or if teachers don't have the skills to deliver, they come to class for hands-on experiences and their teacher does not know how to sew. So when we hear the buzzword gap, this is a classic example of a gap in the education system.
It sounds like teaching fashion comes with unique challenges. How do you handle the gaps alongside teaching your students?
I love fashion and have always wanted to strengthen my skills in sewing and design, but I'm not a fashion specialist. Teaching it for the first time without formal training was both exciting and very intimidating. I was learning alongside my students. I worried it might be doing them a disservice. So I was upfront with my students. They could either have me as their teacher, learning together, or another teacher who was equally untrained. Thankfully, my students said, "We're good with you." I requested funding for formal training, but was told I needed to teach myself, as others had done before me, because as a teacher said, "Good luck in getting funds for training." I was very surprised. To help fill these gaps, I started creating video tutorials for other teachers so they can better support these students while continuing learning on the job. This, however, only scratches the surface. As I mentioned, teachers in family studies often lack technical training while students miss out on rich hands-on experiences. This cycle needs to change. I know this firsthand. When I first started, some students were bored and even began skipping class. I dedicated nights, weekends, and after school hours for training myself so I could provide proper learning experiences to honor their times and to trust in me, their teacher. Once I fully implemented sewing projects and started teaching practical skills, engagement and attendance improved significantly. I'm using my summer to prepare for the upcoming term to ensure the best experience for my students. Alongside this, I'm continuing to make video tutorials and host this podcast because it's my mission to help teachers, students, and their families build strong communities globally and to not be bored, at least not in my class. I don't think I would ever want any students to feel bored again or have to wait for me to gain some experience on my skills. I know firsthand and how much students suffer when courses feel engaging. So I believe there's an urgency for change, or at least the idea of a pilot project to research and validate if this change is valuable.
Could boredom in studies actually be a sign that deeper emotional wellness needs are not being met? And how does it tie into your advocacy for updating the curriculum? Also, is there any research connecting absenteeism or disengagement to these issues in Ontario?
Yes, there is research, though it's limited. Studies indicate that boredom and disengagement can contribute to absenteeism, but the data doesn't capture the full picture. Teachers like me observe firsthand when students aren't engaged. They wander the halls, skip class, or disengage entirely. Listening to them, nearly all say the main reason is boredom. They aren't seeing meaningful hands-on learning experiences or meaning in the subjects that are being taught. This is very heartbreaking.
If boredom and confusion in students can signal unmet emotional needs, then how do you see skills like sewing and fashion tech making a difference? Could connecting students to purpose, creativity, and even income really change their emotional wellness and prospects?
Absolutely. Purpose has a significant impact on emotional wellness. When students see that skills they're learning can lead to real, tangible outcomes, they feel capable and motivated. Hands-on skill-based learning, especially when it's connected to paid experiences, lets students test their interest, build confidence, and see realistic pathways for their future. It also builds resilience. Students learn that efforts and skills translate into opportunity, fostering perseverance and adaptability. Sewing, for example, connects them to a creative outlet in a powerful industry, showing that their work has both meaning and potential. The teen years are already complex stage of development, a time when students are forming identity, navigating emotions, and developing social emotional skills. An outdated education system combined with limited resources only deepens these struggles, impacting emotional wellness and limiting potential. Just think if they have to sit in a classroom learning about a subject that they have no interest in and don't see any meaning in and don't see themselves connected to. Maslow understood the importance of purpose. This self grows and evolves and changes. A musician must make music. An artist must paint. A poet must write. If he is to be ultimately at peace with himself, what a man can be, he must be. This need we may call self-actualization. Without belonging, esteem, and opportunities to reach that stage of growth, true learning can't take place. And I feel the same is true globally, whether in Canada or Pakistan or any part of the globe. The connections between education, opportunity, and risk and resilience are clear. The education we offer must reflect this reality with fairness and equality. Education should prepare students not just for exams, but for the life they want to choose for themselves.
And that ties back into emotional wellness, right?
Exactly. Social emotional learning research shows that students thrive when they feel competent, valued, and connected to meaningful experiences. When students can see that their skills have real world relevance, their sense of purpose grows. They feel motivated, resilient, and more capable of navigating challenges. On the other hand, if their talents are ignored or devalued, it can take a toll on their self-esteem and emotional wellness, similar to what Maslow said was about self-actualization. Which brings me to my final point for this episode. Just as a musician needs to play music, a chef needs to cook, a seamstress needs to sew, and a fashion designer needs their creative space, I feel it's time that the education system values and understands teachers need autonomy to guide their students to reach their potential. Researchers need data, but teachers like me have lived experience. We don't need to test, validate, or refine solutions endlessly. We need a paradigm shift from traditional standards to drive meaningful change. Pilot projects are a start, but true transformation requires systemic support. Teachers must have the capacity, resources, and funding to implement hands-on project-based learning for any course or school community. By empowering educators to fill gaps and provide students with resourceful, engaging experiences, especially given their limited time with students, we can make a tangible difference. This isn't just about theory or staying stuck in a managed system. It's about living. Caring for students, knowing their needs firsthand, ensuring they have opportunities to succeed. When we invest in both teachers and students, we create a school environment that truly supports learning, engagement, and emotional wellness. This living system will prepare students to value and earn their risk.
We have learned from the practical myths that education is more than knowledge. It's about building skills, confidence, emotional growth, and resilience. By reimagining the education system and valuing all forms of learning, we can help students connect their passions to practical opportunities, both locally and globally. Join us in the next episode as we keep the conversation going, this time looking at how changing our education system can actually help rebuild the economy. Teachers, think about your own classrooms. How do you see this transforming, and will you stand with us in advocating for family studies? Students, if you are feeling bored, what can you do to bring the change you need? And families, coming from us, two vulnerable women who just want to give back, we ask, will you be part of this transformation? And to the Ministry of Education, the question is simple: will you welcome the changes needed so our students can go from classroom boredom to a powerful classroom that ignites creative contributors to our future economy? Thank you.